Hey everybody, this is Mike Costello.
And I'm Amy Dawson, and we're here at the kitchen at Lost Creek Farm.
And today we are going to teach you how to make one of our all-time favorite desserts.
Yes, it's an old-fashioned vinegar pie, and this recipe comes from a collection of recipes in my family. It was clipped out of a local newspaper in the early 1900s.
Now some people think vinegar pie sounds a little bit strange, but believe it or not, it's actually very, very delicious.
It is. It's essentially a mock lemon pie, and so we love lemon desserts, so this was an instant favorite.
Yeah, it's a classic recipe from West Virginia, but not just West Virginia or Appalachia. There are vinegar pie recipes that come from all over rural America. And rural cooks have always been very creative. So during a time when lemons were harder to come by, people would look to their pantry and they would use very simple ingredients to mimic that flavor, almost precisely.
And best of all, it's really easy to make. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, so we're going to start out with a medium saucepan and we're going to heat 1 cup of water over about medium heat.
And then we're going to add, once that water gets warm, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. And we use salted butter here, but you could use unsalted, but you might want to add a little bit more salt to your recipe for that contrast.
And next we add 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Now, what we use, this is a funky unfiltered cider vinegar that we make here at the farm, but you can use lots of different vinegars for this recipe.
Yeah, and then we add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg to the pot.
Yeah, the nutmeg is really the unsung hero in this whole dish. Remember, we're trying to mimic lemons. And that vinegar, it gives us the brightness, the acidity, the kind of tartness that we're looking for.
Right, but the lemon also has this fragrance to it. And it turns out that nutmeg gets us really close to that flavor.
Yeah, it's kind of a surprising ingredient combination, but it works really, really well. Okay, so next we're going to add 1 cup of sugar.
Then we slowly add a mixture of 3 tablespoons of flour and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, and we want to stir that constantly.
Yeah, you want to be really careful here. If you add the flour too quickly, you risk clumping, and we don't want clumps. So it's really best to take your time.
Yeah, and then we just keep stirring as we cook over low heat for a few minutes until it's nice and thick.
Yeah, you'll really notice when it gets a lot thicker. Okay, so next we use 4 eggs, but we're just going to use the yolks. So we put those into a separate mixing bowl and we beat them with a whisk. Then we take this hot mixture we've been cooking and very, very slowly, we pour it into the beaten egg yolks.
And we like to work as a team here, so one of us can stir constantly as the other one pours the hot mixture into the bowl. Okay, now we just return this to our burner on low heat, and we stir that constantly again for a few minutes until this mixture gets nice and thick.
Yeah, in this step the egg yolks are cooking and we're really trying to build that body of the custard filling. So we're going to have a nice firmer texture the more this kind of cooks and thickens up.
Yeah, and once it's thickened considerably, you want to get it out of that pan and into a cooling bowl because we want it to cool as fast as possible.
Okay, so we've let our filling cool for a couple of hours and we're just about ready to bake our pie. For this next step, you're going to need a pre-baked pie crust.
Yeah, so you'll want an 8 or 9 inch pie shell. Whatever your favorite pie crust recipe is, just use that and you can't go wrong.
Okay, so now we just fill our crust with the custard. And one thing I want to point out here is that for a 9-inch pie pan, this recipe makes a pretty shallow pie. So sometimes we'll actually double this recipe and we'll make a much heftier pie, something a little bit taller.
And so after we filled the pie shell and smoothed it all out, we bake it in a 400-degree oven for about 25 minutes.
Yeah, and by baking it, we cook the custard once more. So that'll give us a nicer, firmer texture. It'll be easier to cut. But it'll also give us this beautiful golden brown color on top.
Okay, so we have baked, let cool, and have cut into our finished pie. And I think it looks pretty beautiful. How does it taste?
It does. It looks beautiful and it tastes pretty darn good too. And I can't wait for you guys to try it.
Yes, please give this recipe a try. We think you'll really like it. And thanks so much for joining us.
Yep. Thank you. See you later.